On the show this week, there is so much to talk about in supercars, Townsville, fuel saving. Thomas Randle from Castrol Racing joins us on this show. Jack Perkins is back in the studio as well. We've got plenty to talk about. Sprint Cup finals, formats, all sorts of stuff. Let's get started here on the Undercut. He's back in the studio. Jack Perkins, hello. Welcome to you.
Yeah, g'day Noons. Nice to be back. You've been pressing on with Moff, so it's nice to get a look in again.
Oh, come on now. Come on now. You've been a busy man. Hey, the big question, though, that everyone wanted to know, when's Jack back? Well, now. And what's happened to the hair? The swoop's disappeared.
Well, I lost that bet with myself and I had to go and get a haircut, but I actually probably need another haircut, mate. It's getting a bit long.
Yeah, you and me both.
I wear a hat every day of the week, Noons, and I only ever have to do it up when I do the undercut, so I need to sort that out. But enough about my hair because, as you said, we've both been busy and you've been jet-setting around the place.
I have been taking some flights in recent times, a couple of weeks in the UK, holidays, but with a little bit of automotive connection and motorsport involvement. So a trip to the British Grand Prix. First time I've seen Formula One outside of Australia, which was great, and to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which I've got to tell you, you got to go. If you haven't been, you got to go. If you love motoring, motorsport, history, heritage, it's kind of like the perfect mixture of motor show, motor racing event, superstar current names, superstars of the past, legendary cars. It's kind of like it's Sleuth Manor from heaven. It's amazing.
You and I have spoken about this before, so I was pretty jealous one morning. I woke up to about 25 images on WhatsApp from you, different cars and things, and I tell you what, it looked awesome. And I'd love nothing more than be able to take one of Dad's old cars over there and be a part of the event, but hopefully that's to come. So Goodwood itself, worth doing.
Yeah, worth doing. I mean, it's a massive event. You probably don't understand the size of it if you just watch the hill climb on the live stream. But the size of the marquees that the manufacturers put together, they launch cars there. It's very much a motor show with other stuff. But you walk around and it's superstars everywhere, but it's not just old Formula One drivers. Like you know, Lando Norris is there, Rossi's there, Gerhard Berger's there. Daniel Ricciardo's just wandering around. He's not driving anything, but he was there. Superstars of touring cars, sports cars, Indy cars. Little Al was there. Mario and Michael and Marco Andretti were there. There was a bunch of... And the thing that really caught me that I hadn't really pondered about it, they're so open to everything. So it's not just old Formula One cars. There's drifting. They were so popular, the drift cars. Travis Pastrana had that Subaru thing that he was here with in Australia at Bathurst last year. Hayden Pullen, the Aussie, was there with the LS-powered Silvia, of all things. Jamie Whincup obviously was there running that Red Bull Mustang that's doing stuff overseas. But drifting, American cars, Formula One, Le Mans, touring cars, historic cars, rally stages, off-road stages. You literally needed all 4 days to try to see a bit of everything. It was off the charts amazing, and I'm kind of addicted to want to go back.
Well, hopefully you can tee up a bit of an Australian V8 Sleuth flair for us next year. But quickly, on the Silverstone Grand Prix, I must admit, I haven't prompted you for this, but the Perkins Engineering cap behind my shoulder, someone sent me a photo of one at Silverstone.
Yeah, it's amazing what you see when you go around the world. I mean,
that was a good Grand Prix, though?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, Silverstone, you know, it's the first venue of a Formula One World Championship race in 1950. What was really interesting, though, was because there's so many British drivers, was getting a feel for what the British feel about their drivers. Lewis is the man. I mean, he would drive past on any given lap in any given session.
Even in the Ferrari.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. He's the man. George Russell? Nah. Lando Norris? Probably P2.
Yep.
But a long way off Lewis. Lewis is the man in the UK.
Well, he's Sir Lewis Hamilton.
He's Sir for a good reason. He's Sir for a good reason. But great to have a wander around the Silverstone Museum as well. That's really impressive if you ever go over there to have a look. But, of course, you're right in racing heartland there where there's a pile of Formula One teams located within X number of miles. Lola's right at the track. There's all sorts of motorsport businesses that are all in that area. So it's kind of the Silicon Valley of motorsport in the UK with all those sorts of teams and suppliers and stuff. But I did message you when I was at Goodwood because I saw a silk cut Jag that won Le Mans 88, the sister car to the one that your dad drove. And then next to it was a Skull Bandit Porsche Group C car. And I kind of went off and did some sleuthing of a night time back at the accommodation. It's the Porsche that your dad and Peter Brock drove at Le Mans in 84 in Skull Bandit colours now. And I thought, maybe we could put together some funding, crowdfund, GoFundMe, and we'll buy it.
We would need probably 3 or 4 million people to put in $1 each, Noons, on a GoFundMe page. But yeah, it made me look up some of the information I found on that car before. Chassis 102, John Fitzpatrick Racing Porsche.
Oh,
and if anyone with deeper pockets than me could buy that car and bring it back to Australia, I'd love to be a part of putting the original livery back on it.
That would be cool. Hey, let's get into our Castrol performers of the week. As always, our great partners at Castrol bring you the Undercut. Who's yours? Are you going to America? I've got a funny feeling you're going to go round and round here.
Yeah, so I did America last time in the NASCAR stuff, and I got to admit the Supercar schedule's not really allowing me to do anything Supercars because the last race was a few weeks ago, and I didn't actually get to watch a lot of it, and the next one's a couple of weeks away. So because I watched it again on the weekend, well, Monday morning, the NASCAR race for me returning to North Wilkesboro. So for those that don't follow NASCAR, let me quickly explain it. This was a circuit that started in 1947 and had its last Cup Series championship race in 1996. Shut the doors. The place grew weeds. This, very reminiscent, to be honest, for me, of Calder Park. And then in COVID, iRacing went and scanned the place and everyone got a bit of interest in it. Then they found some money and they reinvigorated the place, got it going again, resurfaced the track. And in this year was their first time to have a NASCAR points race. Had the All-Star race there last year and they had a points race there, first time since 1996. And I just thought, how good would it be if we revived one of our old circuits? Calder comes to mind and had a big championship race there. And to me, I just thought brilliant. The race itself was okay. It wasn't the most amazing NASCAR race I've ever seen. But the fact of what the story to get there to me, pretty cool. And to add to that, Van Gisbergen ran well inside the top 5 all night. He was second in stage 1, 5th in stage 2. And like they say on Happy Gilmore, Happy's learned how to putt. Shane Van Gisbergen has learnt the ovals. And I was very rapt to see Shane have a great result in finishing 5th. He's the Trackhouse #1 down there at the moment and doing good things. So I hope he can get through to the next stage of the chase there for the championship because he's doing a great job.
I love the quote where he said, I won't use the expletive, I don't know what to do now. He's leading a race on an oval. He didn't quite know what came next, but he knows what comes next. Yeah. He knows absolutely what he's doing. My performer of the week, I'm going to go to Goodwood because it was 4 days of taking it all in there. My man is Romain Dumas, the Frenchman who for the 3rd year in a row topped the shootout. So they take all these sorts of cars, put them all together, let him go loose on the hill climb there, which is the driveway of the Duke of Richmond's house. As you do, run a hill climb up your house.
It's really cool.
For the 3rd time in a row, he's done it with Ford. This was the E-Mac-E Mustang, which is it's like a slot car when you press the button and it just goes zip. Incredible to win 3 years in a row in various different Fords. So for me, Romain Dumas is my Castrol performer of the week for getting the job done again at Goodwood. If he can get 4 in a row next year, that would be special. That is our Castrol performers of the week. Next up, it's time. Burning questions. This week, the Burning Questions brought to you by Ford Trade Club. Great to have Jack Ford Trade Club on board. You're a Mustang driver this year.
Yes, I am, and probably part of the Ford Trade Club when we get spare parts for it, Noons.
Nice. If you're in the automotive trade, Ford Trade Club is the best place to find the genuine parts and motorcraft as well at exclusive Trade Club prices. You can also sign up for the loyalty dollars. Have you already signed up? You probably already signed up.
I'll have to check the fine print.
Check the fine print. Use more genuine parts with Ford Trade Club's exclusive pricing and the benefits that you can get for members. Great to have them on board with us here on the Undercut. They are involved with Burning Questions. Jack, I've got the new ball. I'm bowling. You're batting. Is there enough reward for winning the Supercars Sprint Cup?
It's a tricky question to answer because personally I'm a big fan of the finals and the way it all works, but I think you're always going to be biased in this question because there's so many events in the sprint part. So I think the issue comes that there's not enough enduros and there's not enough races after the enduros to kind of finish off the season. So is there a big enough reward? Well, yeah, I guess you get your ticket straight through to the finals. But for me, to make it all a bit more even and to potentially take some of the weighting off how many races there are as part of the Sprint Cup, add another 2-driver endurance race, add a couple more races after the enduro so that the finals runs are home. And then all of a sudden, it sort of looks a bit more evenly weighted.
So if the calendar's 14, maybe pluck a Sprint Cup round now and plop it into the finals to just stretch that out a little bit more. I mean, the chase for the Sprint Cup points on our screen as we see him right now, Matt Payne out in front on 16.56. He's 92 up on Brock Feeney, so he's had a nice turnaround. Brodie Kostecki, Cam Waters are all in the mix, so it's a bit of a Ford Club at the moment. But just to remind people that if you win the Sprint Cup, you get 25 bonus points to take into the finals. But for me, that free kick that takes you through the Enduros, I think that's more than enough reward that you could absolutely have 2 shockers and score no points, and you're still in the run for the final. So I think there's enough reward there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to quickly touch on that, a Supercars race weekend that's got 3 races is 300 points.
Yeah.
A Supercars endurance race, 1 race is 300 points. So there's quite a lot of weight in these 2 endurance races. And why can't the Queensland race be a Queensland 500k race? Go to the Tailem Bend 500k race and then the Bathurst 1000. There'll be a reason someone will say it can't be done, but I'd say, well, don't say can't, let's can, and have another enduro.
One of the things that people will say if you want another enduro is that, well, it's going to cost more money for co-drivers to be able to do. But the reality is we used to do it anyway.
Exactly.
So I'm sure for what a co-driver would charge for an extra round versus the money that gets spent on all sorts of other things is pretty small in the grand scheme of things.
I will promise you, at Queensland Raceway, every team will have at least one of their co-drivers there watching because they're testing.
There's a test on Monday.
And so the cost to have them there doesn't change. They'll be flying them there. They'll be putting them in hotel rooms.
How much they pay them for their job
Correct.
to drive.
This is where co-drivers need to be sensible and teams, everyone needs to come to it. But what I'm saying is they're already there for no extra money. So if they had to put a helmet on earlier, I'm sure that common sense will prevail if indeed those co-drivers would like a job.
That is, that's part of the mix. That's part of the mix for sure. Talking finals, who is going to miss out on the finals this year? As it sits, there's kind of an interesting cut-off point as we head towards the next round at Wanneroo in Perth. I mean, Will Brown, after a sluggish start to the year, has been able to get himself up and going and is quite a way in front of the cut line now. He's almost a weekend in front of it with only 2 weekends to go before the Enduros. But the Walkinshaw Toyotas, 8th and 9th, I don't think they're fully safe here just yet. And you've got Jack LeBrock, who's had kind of a very quiet, successful year. He's really been the under-the-radar performer. Then you've got a couple of guys who are on the outside looking in. I don't think we're anywhere close to being sorted here for this part of the finals.
No, we're not. And this time of year we start to really focus in on this top 10 because it's becoming quite topical, obviously, with the sprint part of the championship coming to an end. And then we start looking at endurance races, and co-drivers and whatnot. And I've already touched on the points that are on offer at those endurance races. So when you look at that, 600 points, none of these guys are safe.
No, not yet.
At all.
Not yet.
And if you're Will Brown and you have a DNF at an endurance race, you're nervous. And, both the Walkinshaw TWG drivers, Woody and Mostert, they can't be comfortable in their position either. So there's some big names there that aren't comfortable with how their championship's progressing and need some really solid results to make sure that they're going to make it to these finals.
And there's a couple of guys just on the fringe here. So James Golding, Blanchards are trending the wrong way.
Correct.
Started really solidly, and as Triple Eight have kind of had their – and look, it's all relative. Brock Feeney is still in the fight for the championship, second in the points. It's not horrendous and terrible, but they've set such a benchmark for so long that we judge them a little bit differently to others. But James Golding's still in the mix here. Yep. Blanchards was strong at the endurance races last year. And Jaden Ojeda, his graph's going up. Premier Racing's 31 car, it would not shock me. Let's remember what they delivered at Bathurst last year with James Golding. He's 137 off the cut line. He could easily chew some of that away in the next 2 Sprint Cup rounds. And the Enduros, as you said, are worth 600 overall. So we're a long way from being done here. But my worry is actually for the Walkinshaw Supras here because, and we will touch on Toyota and its engines and the reliability a little bit later in this segment, but I wouldn't be feeling really easy if I were them, and I would be feeling really incentivized if I'm Jaden Ojeda or Jack LeBrock or even Thomas Randle, who's a bit off the graphic here. We're a long way from being done here to decide who's in and who's out.
Oh, and you touched on that. I think Randall and Heimgartner in particular, too, that aren't on that board. They're below 12th, so I think they're 13th and 15th respectively, or 13th and 14th. Anyway, they have 2 strong results in endurance races. All of a sudden, they're back in the picture. If you walk away with 500 points from Tailem Bend and Bathurst, you aren't out of this game. So, I saw somewhere that Heimgartner suggested maybe their finals run was over after a couple of DNFs through the mechanical issues that they're facing there. But I wouldn't be counting that out yet because...
There's too much of a swing.
Correct.
With the Enduros, yeah.
And so there's a lot to play out yet, Noons, and it's exciting.
I'd be really worried that the 2 Walkinshaw cars might miss out If anything goes wrong in the Enduros, they're at the wrong end of the 10 for that to happen. Last year, they were at the right end of the 10. So when Ryan Wood had dramas at Bathurst, Chazzy didn't finish Bathurst, but they were high enough in the points that they were sort of okay to be able to keep going. They kind of don't have this luxury. They need a couple of really good sprint rounds to be able to push their way a bit forward.
And they can't afford to have any issues at the endurance races.
No. There's no option. No option. Next question. Jack, do you dislike fuel saving?
I don't dislike it, Noons. My only Supercars win has come from a fuel saving race. But it's worth touching on for me, fuel saving is not new. It's not a new thing. Unfortunately, I think the contribution to the fuel saving at the moment is the Crontec fuel filling devices that the Gen 3 cars have got. Doesn't get spoken about a lot, like through the telecasts and in the background, but these were new units for Gen 3. They're incredibly expensive to the point where teams are looking to sell Gen 3 cars, they're taking these fuel filling units out of the cars to save some money on the purchase price.
I'm of the understanding that each churn nozzle adapter is about $12,000 to $14,000.
And that is a horrific amount of money.
2 cars.
Because what happens with these couplers, having been involved in Teamland, if you do not have a complete smooth connection when you're engaging the fuel filler into the car, you get slow fill time. So the flow going into the car is slower. Now, why has that got to do with fuel saving? Because the timed fuel stops occasionally. In a lot of the races, the engineers have worked out you might need 12 seconds of fuel to get home. So they go 12 seconds, then they get out on the racetrack and realise they didn't get 12 seconds worth of fuel in.
But there's a double-edged sword to this though too. They do that and not have as much go in as they thought they were putting in, but they also underfill anyway because they're trying to beat the guy down the pit lane.
Correct.
And as Cam Waters found himself in at Townsville, it's kind of a double hit. And then they're asking the driver, righto, mate, drive slow to get home. And he's like, what?
Yeah. And so to that point, I don't really think we needed the churn thing. I think that's a bit silly. Every team had a fuel rig and it's...
So it was said that it was the cost to drag them around the country and to have the staff to...
I don't buy it. The truck's still going. The fuel rig goes in the same truck. The fuel rigs go to Bathurst. The same truck went to Townsville. I don't understand why you couldn't take the fuel rigs.
So for the cost of those bottles, the churns, the nozzles, all the bits that go with it, if it's, and I asked Supercars this the other day, it's 12 to 14 grand our car. So 2-car team.
24,000.
There's, 24 to 28,000, nearly $30,000 worth of expense. Would it have cost $30,000 worth of expense for the fuel rigs to be still in use for those events?
Unless there's something I'm unaware of.
There might be.
The fuel rigs unfold and get packed away in the same transporter that carries the cars. So I don't understand how there's any different. Now, forgive me if I've completely missed the reality of the situation, but I don't believe they needed to bring the churns in. Look at what we're going to do at Bathurst. We go back to fuel rigs.
But same for the finals as well.
The problem is this inconsistent fuel flow. Like 1 year at Bathurst when I was with Erebus, we spent nearly 30 seconds longer in pit lane over the course of the race because we had slow fuel fill. It's a control part. We have no control over that. And to me, that's bad news, especially for the price of them compared to the old Siamese units we used to have back on all the original cars. There was no issues with the fuel flow. And that's why we had control rigs. So everyone had the same fuel flow.
But in another element of this fuel saving discussion, the teams are their own worst enemies here because, and again, I spoke to Tim Edwards during the week, and he was absolutely clear and happy to say this, that they run the race distances. And obviously the fuel being slightly different this year, it burns a bit quicker. They've modified a few race distances to account for that. But he said 1.8 churns of fuel is what they determine that the team will need for a race. But what teams are doing, and once one does it, they all start to do it. It's competitive. That's how it is. If they go, well, actually, we could get by with 1.7 or 1.6 churns, but our driver's going to have to
save fuel,
cruise a bit, but we want the track position. So although the guy behind's able to press on a bit harder, if he can't pass a Brody, a Cam, a Will Brown, a Brock Feeney, whoever it might be, who are great racing drivers, doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to get by.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the strategy element's cool, but I think what fans want to see is the drivers pushing the cars to their limits.
Yeah.
So when you're driving around saving fuel and saving tyres, you're not really racing cars. It's like a mileage marathon. Now, the fuel races work well just by chance, not by design.
Yeah.
So by chance that there's a safety car with 30 laps to go and you can only do 25 laps on a tank of fuel and someone rolls the dice, that's when it's fun. But if it's week in, week out and we're watching drivers drive these cars around a second off the pace just to see if they can make it, that's, to me, not car racing.
One of the things I thought of, could we make the strategy element of this change a bit? They are restricted. There's one churn per car. So if you were to put your fuel churn in, empty your fuel into your car, you'd have to then go back and refill it while the car's still sitting there chewing time to put more fuel in it. So I asked Tim Edwards, well, could you have a situation where each car could put 2 churns in per stop? But the fact is, he said, well, you'd have to have another churn for each car, and therefore that's where the cost comes in. If that's another, 12 to 14 grand per churn. So you start to blow it up financially, and that doesn't make too much sense. But I think back to the glory days of, it's easy to say glory days, isn't it? But Australian Touring Car Championship, sprint races, refueling, tyre stops, all that wasn't a thing. And we will cover it off in this segment very shortly, but about race formats and Sprint Cup. This doesn't feel like sprint racing when we're talking about refueling, saving fuel, all those sorts of things. It doesn't match to Sprint Cup.
No. And it's something we're normally only au fait with endurance racing.
Yeah, which we'll cover off a bit later in this segment. That's another question. It's on the next page. Where are the Toyota engines at? That's a major situation here that they've come out of the block so well, the Supras this year. They've won, 3 races. It's gone far better than I think a lot of people probably would have expected. The cars look great. They've performed really well. But there is an issue here with the engines that they're working on.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it because, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been reasonably tight-lipped on a few of the things with the engine program.
Yeah, there was really only one of the – Carl Foe made some comments on the V8 Sleuth website that I went back to that some of those failures that they've had with Ryan Wood in New Zealand, and Chaz obviously had one in Darwin. Andre Heimgartner's had an issue along the way. He said valve train related on the exhaust side, you kind of strengthen one thing and you push the problem to somewhere else, and then it kind of then flows on from there. But he said the good thing is we know where the problem or what the problem is. We've identified the next link in the chain that's breaking. Parts are being manufactured for that now, and a fix is crucially scheduled to be applied in time for Bathurst in October, which of course is the big thing that really matters more than anything else in the sport. So Toyota are a very conservative business and company. Naturally, they will not want to talk about, analyse, have it talked about. We can't not talk about it, but I think the offset to all this is that the fantastic performances that they've had for a new manufacturer in year one have been at a higher level than probably anything else, bar maybe the Volvo with Scott McLaughlin. But there's been more Supras. It's not just been one of them that's been performing well. It's expected that these things will have issues. I mean, nothing rolls out perfectly straight away. But the big key is that the people in the roles involved are working on the problem. They know what the problem is. They'll get it fixed. They will get it fixed. And the key will be in time for Bathurst, because that's the thing that Toyota hold above anything else is winning Bathurst.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, like you've touched on, coming into a sport. You can come in and be uncompetitive and have reliability, or quite often it's the other way around.
I'd rather it the other way around.
And you be competitive and you have some unreliability issues. So without knowing the exact cause and the effect of the problems they're facing, it looks like they're having catastrophic failures, whether they're dropping valves.
Does it matter if it's a big or a little failure? Failure's a failure.
Well, it's true, and it's not. But the hardest thing, Noons, with engines is cause and effect. You need to understand what's causing the issue. And having seen some of the blow-ups that, like Heimgartner had at Sydney Motorsport Park at the start of the year, they look like big, spontaneous engine disassemblies. Like they are just, nothing wants to be in the engine anymore.
That's one way to describe it.
Then when you get a box of bent parts, trying to identify what the issue is. So I think the valve train is what I believe the issue from what you hear and what you read. So keeping that alive becomes a big issue for Bathurst. 1,000 kilometres should be all they're all thinking about right now.
They will be.
Can the engines do 1,000 Ks? And it might mean we see back to the traditional Saturday night engine changes at Bathurst, put a fresh one in for Sunday.
Yeah, that is something that does hark back to back in the day. But I've got full confidence that they will be right when it matters later on the year for finals and for Bathurst in particular. But my concern is just where the Walkinshaw guys are at in the finals mix right now. They're at the back half of the 10, not the top half of the 10. So if anything goes wrong in that run up to get to the finals, that might put them in a tough position.
And they are a good crew down there, because I believe some of the original Walkinshaw guys are still servicing the engines here in Australia. And they'll get to the bottom of it. It's just time becomes the problem. And there's some switched on people there. And like you've said, they've come out and they're winning races. So hats off to them for that.
And it's manufacturing parts. It's getting parts here. It's getting them approved by Supercars, putting them on their dyno. It's a process. You don't just, it's kind of not like the old days where if your dad had a drama with his engines, he'd go off and fix it and it's done.
Yeah.
The process is very different in the modern supercars category. But we kind of touched on the next question a little bit in a previous question, Jack, but what's the best race format? And it's a very open-ended type of question, and it links back to what I was saying about the Sprint Cup. And here we are talking about pit stops, 200 Ks, fuel flow, fuel saving. Have I missed something? But Sprint Cup is not connecting with some of the race formats that we've got. I think Grand Prix, sprint.
Yep.
Everywhere else, not so sprint.
No, and I think we're probably still in a bit of a position with supercars where we don't know what the perfect fix is in terms of what should the race weekends look like. This is my personal opinion, because Adelaide 500 came along in the late 90s with these 2x250k races, and they were excellent. But they were also in a time when we didn't have a full field of professional drivers, so we were guaranteed safety cars and things to keep it alive. A 250-kilometre green flag race is incredibly challenging to watch.
Because everyone's at such a good level now.
Yep. There's no crashes. There's no safety cars.
Very few mechanical dramas.
And the field spread becomes bigger because the quicker cars are more competitive over a longer run. Those battling with poor handling deteriorate over a long run. And what you get is a poor product unless there's a safety car. So for me, it's hard to answer. I think you're right. I think we need more sprint weekends where there's sprint races. But I enjoy having pit stops in races as well, bringing the crew into it, whether it's 2 tyres, 4 tyres. I don't believe we need to have fuel stops at Barbagallo, at Wanneroo. For an example, that should be a sprint racetrack. It's sub 60-second lap time, generates pretty good short, sharp racing. And back in the day, we would have had 3 races on a Sunday there, and it would have been great. And the fans love it. So it's tricky to know, but I think there's a bit of a mismatch, like you've said. The Sprint Cup's got some of these 500k weekends where there's a couple of 250k races, but they've also got this 440 format, which has got 2 races on the Saturday and 1 race on the Sunday. So it's very challenging. I'm involved in the game. It's hard to keep up with the formats when they rotate around a little bit. So I can only imagine it's challenging as well for those watching at home.
Over the years, supercars, V8 supercars, the category, the championship, it's changed formats so many times, trying to find the right thing. Sometimes that's been politically influenced. Sometimes it's track dependent. Sometimes it's, and that's a great idea, let's just try it and see how it goes. It's been changed for so many reasons. And I looked at the list of things. We've had longer, we've had shorter, we've had, let's have compulsory pit stops, let's have tyre stops, let's try reverse grids, which was a thing there for a little while in the 2000s. Let's try reverse 6, let's have knockout qualifying, let's try different tyres. There's so many things in the mix here that sometimes even I find it hard to go, what's the format this weekend? How many cars are dropped out of qualifying? Which tyre are they on for this session? It's kind of like moving the goalposts in footy every weekend to know, which side of the ground are they on this weekend? It's kind of hard. But I feel that the Sprint Cup's a misnomer here. I really honestly think we need to get rid of having so much qualifying, take that track time and convert it into racing. If you're going to have 200 Ks of racing on a Saturday in Townsville, I'm cool with that. But let's have 2 100K races. Let's forget having to have fuel churns and all the equipment for pit stops. Let's make it qualify for the first one, start where you finish the first one, like we go back a little bit to progressive grid. It still opens up scenarios for strategy. If there's a safety car, you know what, do we come in and do we throw some new tyres at it to just try to vault our way through the field? There'll be a little bit of that involved, but you've got to do a race format that fits the banner of that part of the championship and the track.
Yeah.
And to me, Sprint Cup, we're not doing sprint races here. We're doing those races that are in the finals, the 250s, 200-y type K stuff. That's perfect for finals. I like it. I'm all in. Get the teams involved, make it part of winning and losing the championship. Enduros are their own thing. But I think in the sprint land, and as you said, small tracks, Wanneroo, Simmons Plains, go sprint racing. And then you don't have to worry about fuel saving. You don't have to worry about all this stuff that's permeating. Just let them rip.
I agree with you. And I think one thing I want to harp on is it's not just a supercars thing. Like I've seen plenty of dud F1 races and plenty of crap NASCAR races, and I've seen lots of dud football games. Yep. So it's not just a supercars thing, but it's about trying to find exactly what works well for you. And you look how much money Formula One have, and they still have to have different tyre compounds and a DRS rear wing system to incorporate any form of overtaking.
Well, and they've even got rid of, some of the things that they had that were probably not that bad. But having been at the British Grand Prix, now the spectacle of it all was great, the size, the huge crowd, everyone's caught up in Formula One fever. The actual car race and the racing was rubbish.
Yeah.
We sat in the grandstand at Turn 1 at Abbey, which was an awesome place to see the start of the British Grand Prix and watch the race and take it all in. wasn't a good car race. And right at the end there where they all packed up again and they were going to restart and then they didn't restart and it wasn't flash.
No.
I mean, you don't see too many cracking Formula One races. It's just that it's got such a spectrum of excitement and enthusiasm around it off the back of Drive to Survive, and it's the biggest thing in town at the moment. Probably makes it a bit better than it really is. But it's not a problem just to supercars, as you say.
Just got to always think about entertainment.
Correct.
It's got to be entertaining. People love watching cars racing.
And what are some of the most entertaining races of the year, Jack? Albert Park, sprints, short races, get it done.
Yep.
And the racing quality on the whole has been pretty good in recent times, but I reckon you could make it even better by making the Sprint Cup sprint races. Quick one to finish us off with. Who holds the key to the silly season for next year? Because there's still a few seats up for grabs. Who's the person with the key right now?
Well, it's an interesting one because we've been speaking a lot about Matt Payne, and it's a bit of a strange one because I think he's probably the number one seated driver in the moment. I think between.
But surely he goes nowhere now.
Well, from what I understand, but I don't know why he wants to move. It's a whole other topic, but surely anything that kind of happens for next year is potentially to make way for an impending move from the Groves with Payne. So
who holds it right now though for next year? Because let's just presume he's going nowhere. He stays at Groves.
I think it's potentially David Reynolds.
Has to be.
Yeah, in terms of does he get another opportunity? Does he call quits on his full-time driving? And it all because I think the speculation and all the things we know are suggesting that Matt Payne's going to end up in that race team come 2028. And it's sort of what happens in between. So that's going to be interesting. It's probably not as busy a silly season as we've seen in the past.
No.
But there's certainly going to be a few things that happen as a bit of a preamble to what's to come.
What happens in this silly season for next year, I think are very much one in, one outs. So does Reynolds go on or not? Do they put someone else in for another year before Payne arrives? Does Declan Fraser keep his seat? Does anything happen to BJR, Matt Stone?
Piled a bit of pressure on Declan already.
There's been a bit coming there from the sounds of things in recent times. So I don't think it's the domino effect this year, though. I think that comes next year and it'll be headed by Payne. That'll open a seat at Groves. Whoever jumps there opens a seat up somewhere else and so on and so forth. So the silly season chat next year for the year after is going to be absolutely bannerhead stuff. But that is the burning questions. Thanks to Ford Trade Club. If you work on Ford, speak to your local Ford dealer about becoming a Ford Trade Club member. Now, this weekend, the Race Fuels Winton Festival of Speed is firing into action. I'm going to be among all the action there, taking it all in. Here's a little taste of what you can enjoy this weekend. Well, he had to sit out at Darwin, but he was back up on the wheel in Townsville, and he's with us here on the Undercut. Thomas Randle, welcome.
Thanks, Noonan. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. 55 Castrol Mustang, Tickford on the whole, graphs going up. Things are good at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the last two rounds have been a big step in the right direction. The previous three rounds were, certainly a challenge. The two in New Zealand and Tassie were tough, but this championship it's hard to be consistent. I mean, the competition level's so high, and you might think you've found something, and then the next time you go out, oh, hang on, that didn't work. So it's challenging, but certainly the weekend we had in Townsville, I felt like as a whole things really clicked, and it just sort of felt like I was back and sort of found my feet again.
What do you think's sort of been missing? Has it been the team not giving you fast enough race cars, or because it was looking pretty good at various stages over the last couple of years in terms of, like Noon said, upward trajectory, but it just looks like it didn't happen for a long time this year. Do you know what it was, or you haven't been able to figure that bit out?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint just one thing, Jack. And I mean, you've been in the game long enough to know that there's so many things that make up, being fast and trying to be fast consistently. I'd say probably the biggest curveball has been this new compound tyre that we got in 2025, and the way the formats have changed from just being a one compound weekend to most weekends, not Townsville, but overall we have mixed compound racing. So you'll qualify on the new soft, which came out in 2025. Then you go back to the super soft, which is a bit of a different construction. And now we've got different Parc Fermé rules, and it's all very different. And I think being able to adapt to the different tyre from what we've been used to, certainly 2024 was a strong year for the team, and for Cam and I, we finished 4th and 5th in the championship, and things were looking really good. And I just feel like that's probably been one of the big curveballs. I mean, there's certainly been strong rounds, and then there's been tougher rounds. But probably the biggest thing is understanding why we were fast or why we weren't fast, and that's I'd say over the last 6 to 8 months. That's where the work's sort of been put into, looking at or pinpointing, looking at the history of what we've been doing with the cars or how I've been driving it, and seeing, okay, well, this worked, whether it's a setup thing, tyre prep, there's so many elements. And not only that, every other team is also stepping it up. And I mean, you can just see looking at Groves this year, for example, I mean, they are the team to beat day in, day out.
One of the things that I think now is 2 rounds to go in Sprint Cup before we get to the finals with the Ryco Enduro Cup. You find yourself in a really awkward, interesting position where you're on the outside of the 10 looking in, trying to get into the finals like you were last year. You got yourself in there. Cam Waters, your teammates, right up the top. He's, 3rd in the points now. He's right up in the mix there, that barring a disaster at the Enduros, you'd pretty much almost lock him in. I would argue that it's better for Tickford Racing, and maybe this is a question more so for Jack than yourself putting you on the spot, but it's better to have 2 cars in the game for the finals than 1 and putting all the eggs in the basket there, because what happens if Cam and Frosty have a mare at the Bend or Bathurst where all of that effort, and if they sacrifice Thomas a bit more in the next couple of races to boost Cam along, and maybe you miss out on the finals, but what if they trip over for something that's completely out of their control, and then suddenly there's no Tickford car in the fight?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you raise, and I guess it's further to what I asked Thomas about, have they been able to put the finger on the reasons why the performance is not great? But I guess you forget a little bit about the finals side of things because, we've been sprint racing, and I'm sure, Thomas, when you're not performing as well as you'd like from a team and a car point of view, finals couldn't be further away in your thoughts. 5 races ago, you were trying to work out how to get from 15th on the grid into the 5, but now all of a sudden, finals becomes a bigger talking point as we're approaching the end of the sprint season. You think, hang on, we've actually got to execute now. So how much have the finals influenced, further to Aaron's point, how much have they influenced 55 car, but also the broader Tickford organisation?
I think up until before Townsville, with I guess what happened with Darwin, I missed the Sunday race, which was obviously, not ideal. Finals wasn't really on the race. I mean, I want to be in the 10, but it's like, okay, we're just going to take it race by race here and get ourselves in a position where we're back comfortable with the car. And I feel like at Darwin, they found something with the team. I mean, Cam was back on form, really. He won the round. He got a podium in every race, got 2 pole positions, and I probably didn't get to show what I could do up there, given what happened on the Saturday race. But then going to Townsville, I just felt like I was back and comfortable again in the package. And again, we just sort of took it race by race, and we've actually made quite a lot of inroads on that 10 now, and I think we nearly made about 100 points back. And there's still 2 rounds to go in the Sprint Cup, but then also there's the Enduro Cup, which the points at the end of that's what's going to get you in the 10. So there's still a lot of points up on offer. And I mean, on paper, it's all well and good to say, if we can have another couple of weekends like Townsville, we could be back in that 10. And last year, as you said, we were in the 10 for the finals and we made it to Sandown. Unfortunately, that was it for both Cam and myself. But I feel like it's really important to have both cars in the 10 because you look at what the Walkinshaw or the TWG guys did last year, and I think that really boded well for Chaz.
Is that a situation now where you can, I guess, throw your weight around a little bit and say, look, guys, sometimes when you want me to move over for Cam, I get it. You want to maximise Cam's position in the championship. He's at the moment the best bet for the championship for the team because of the simple mathematics. But there's got to come a point here where I've got to get a bit of a help out too, because two's better than one. Have you had those chats? Will you have those chats? How do you go about those chats? Because it's hard to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good conversation, and yeah, I mean those 7 points could matter at the end of the Enduro Cup. So personally, I feel like it's very important we get both cars in the 10. I mean, the team have said that they want both cars in the 10. So let's just hope the next couple of rounds we can make that happen.
It's pretty interesting when you start to think about the Enduros because there are a lot more points on offer for those two big races. Obviously, the 500k race and the Bathurst 1000. You're heading in with a new co-driver.
Again,
yeah.
Have you not had the same one ever yet?
No, every year it's been different. Please don't blame me for that.
Do you smell?
Maybe.
Does that start to play on your mind as well? Like start to think about how you can integrate your co-driver Ruben Goodall into driving the car, setting up the car, being part of the team, and then knowing that his role is not just to contribute for those races, it's potentially to get you in or out of the finals.
Yeah, I think the team have been having those chats with Ruben, and he obviously did the wild card at Townsville, which is just great from an experience point of view because the Gen 3 cars are so different compared to the Gen 2s, which is what he races in Super 2. I mean, they got different, not just different technology, if you like, but they got so much more aero. It's a different tyre. It's the hard tyre versus what we run on the soft. And to, I guess, have to go back to back on a race weekend at Bathurst between the Super 2 and the Gen 3 is a big thing. So I think that's where for Ruben it was good to see him do that wild card and get valuable miles. Unfortunately, he was caught up in that lap one thing on Sunday, but the team did a great job, get it back out, and he did 50-odd laps. So I think for him, and being a rookie, a first-timer, it's obviously an exciting thing. I mean, Tickford gave me my chance back in 2019. I co-drove with Lee Holdsworth, and that was probably a big thing for Lee. You've got a rookie guy being a co-driver, albeit I had a lot of experience in other championships up to that point, and we actually ended up finishing third overall, got a podium at Sandown. So I think Ruben's, it's been good for him to do that wild card, and it's just knowing your role as a co-driver and bring it back in one piece, try and maintain position. It's almost a harder job because there's a lot of pressure on you, but I'm sure he'll be right.
We've seen in recent rounds, Cam got his hands on a brand new chassis, brand new car. Do you get one soon? When's that coming? Are you going to get your hands on one? Some fresh, new, nice, new-smelling metal for maybe the Enduros, the finals? What's the story?
That's probably a question for the team, I'd say. Up until Tassie, I'd been running my car that started Gen 3, so that had done every single race. And then Tasmania was when the team debuted the first Tickford-built supercar, and that's obviously been working pretty well for Cam in the last couple of rounds. So maybe he just bedded it in at Tassie, and since then it's been on song. So that was a big moment for the team to build the first car. I think that they're working.
That's the first Gen 3 car
Correct.
that they've built, rather than from a pace package, tube work.
Yeah. So and then that weekend, they switched me to Cam's first car,
which was the Austin Cindric wildcard car from the end of last year.
I believe so, yeah. And the car that Cam was in, yeah.
So he's dancing here. Are you going to get a new car at some point this year? Surely. You ran the same one for 3 and a bit years. It's time to give Tommy some fresh metal. Come on.
I agree. I'll just say that. I agree. I want a new car.
That's the new headline.
It's sort of interesting talking about cars because it feels like Cam's performance has lifted with the new chassis, whether it has or it hasn't or not. But further to something Aaron raised before, it's been a few times where you've sort of moved out of Cam's way. And now I know you probably say something differently to what you're thinking right now, but at what stage can you not be playing second fiddle to Cam, do you think? Is it when you get your first race win, or is it when you can knock him off more in qualifying, or do you think it's going to evolve where you might be playing sort of second fiddle to Cam?
It's tough. I felt like on the Saturday, like we were having a good race, and we qualified well. I mean, the shootout, I felt like I made a couple of little mistakes, but the car was hooked up, and you probably know more than anyone when the car, you're just gelling with the car, and you feel like even when you make a mistake, you can be at the front, and that's when you just really feel at one with the car. And yeah, like I said, I thought we were having a really good race. And yeah, as a driver, I guess getting the call 6 laps to go, it's pretty frustrating. But we'll see.
Well answered. You've always fronted up for these stuff really, really well.
Especially when you put me on the spot like
that's
this.
the aim of the game. That's the aim of the game. But
hard-hitting questions.
Hard-hitting. Well, I'll do, Jackson.
What would you do, Jack?
Rip the radio out, run my own race. But I'm not been in that position much, mate. But I can see that it becomes frustrating. But at some stage, you know yourself, if you can outperform Cam in qualifying and prove to the team that, hey, I'm the guy that can still win this race for you guys. That's probably what you're trying to achieve.
Well, the good thing that we are going to achieve is that Tom's going to come back and join us on a Castrol special because Retro Livery's back for later in the year, and viewers of the Undercut will be able to get involved, vote on what livery is going to be on your car later in the season. We're going to do a pile of special episodes, the first of which is coming up very, very soon. Keep an eye on that on our socials and on our YouTube. Jack's going to join us for that. You're going to join us for that as well. We'll step through some classic cars and start to get a bit of a vibe of what might be on your car for later in the year. So I think he'll be a cougar, though, just quietly come Sandown later on in the year. Thomas, thank you for joining us. All the best for the next couple of rounds in the Sprint Cup.
Thanks, Nez. Thanks for the hard-hitting questions.
It didn't hurt too much. Hey, thank you to Thomas and the team at Castrol for having him with us today. Next up here on the Undercut, it's time to go number crunching as we get ready to head to Wanneroo in Western Australia. Let's crunch some numbers and take a look at the stats that matter as we head to Wanneroo, Jack. And, Feeney v. Payne. Let's have a look at the last 6 races because this tells quite a story. On the left side, 6 races ago leading into Darwin, Brock smiley. Matt Payne, not smiling. Go through 3 in Darwin, 3 in Townsville. Get to the right side. Matt on top smiling, Brock not smiling. Have a look at the turnaround that's unfolded here. This is a 182-point swing across 6 races.
It's been a bit incredible, to be honest, Noons, when you look at that, because in none of those races have Triple Eight scored a podium. And there have been circuits where, in particular, the team and Brock, in particular in Darwin, and the team in Townsville have excelled in the last 15, 20 years. So it's been just sort of unbelievable to see how it's sort of transpired, because for me at the moment, I've touched on this earlier in the show, Matt Payne is the number 1 driver in Supercars at the moment, and between him and Brody Kostecki. That's just in current form. Obviously, to me, Brock Feeney should be well in that sentence, but unfortunately, their cars just aren't competitive enough at the moment, which is strange because they hit the ground running in their first race for Ford and won it at City Motorsport Park, but they've just been struggling to really get on top of the Ford at a lot of other tracks since then. And the interesting thing is those other 2 teams, Dick Johnson Racing and Groves, are Fords. So it's not like a parity deal. It's a team setting up and drivers making the most out of what they've got. So it's fascinating when you think about it like that, because add to that, Triple Eight got Ford on board to be Ford's main team, and they're not at the moment. So that I'm finding that incredibly fascinating to be watching from the outside.
We have to wait till the season shakes out in full to get to the end of Adelaide. But I can't help but feel that Triple Eight are not going to stay down like this for long. That interesting element where last year Walkinshaw said, no, we played the game this way. We didn't show all our cards. We played around. We tried things during the year, and then we came home strong. Whereas Red Bull was strong all year and then didn't quite get it done at the end. They seem to be adamant saying that, no, we're not playing the game here. We're not fiddling. We're trying. Let's see what unfolds over the year, because I can't help but feel that Triple Eight are going to go bang very soon. They've swapped manufacturers times before. They've had new cars, new models, new eras, new iterations, and they've always been successful and carried on the form. Now, it's a different era of Triple Eight. It's different ownership. The people involved, there's a few key elements there that are the same over time, but they've had the mix. And no matter who the people were in the shirts, they kept on doing the job. I feel they're going to keep doing the job, but Grove Racing is probably the best competitive outfit that they've had to go up against in a while, who've basically learnt from Triple Eight and built a replica of Triple Eight in Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hats off to Grove and their drivers for doing a phenomenal job. But it's just, I don't know, it's just so interesting, isn't it? I talk about and listen to you talk about Walkinshaw's last year and how they're claiming they're preparing for finals. Now, my experience suggests that nothing that they learn at the upcoming race at Wanneroo is going to help them at Bathurst or is going to help them at Adelaide, because the Wanneroo circuit has such a unique surface that none of the Wanneroo setups work anywhere else anyway. But maybe there's still procedural things or the way they're preparing the cars, things that can carry over to other events. And we've heard Triple Eight talk about straight line performance versus other Fords. So maybe they're working on ride heights and bodywork fit-ups and lubrication or whatever it might be to try and improve their straight line performance, which, sure, if they get some gains, that will come up at Wanneroo. But I just find it incredibly hard to sit here with a straight face and go, oh, I'm testing this weekend at Wanneroo for Adelaide. I mean, it's just like, it's like playing football at the MCG for a game you're going to play in Darwin. Like, there's just no relationship.
We've had a few football references today, haven't we?
I mean, I like to break it down for the layman, but it's going to be fascinating. But like you've touched on, Triple Eight are the best team in this game from a record point of view. They've got the best people in the game too. Great engineers, great people running the show. They'll get on top of this. And it's just a matter of where and when.
Hard to go against history. Hey, let's take a look at Brodie Kostecki because he's been up and down, literally. Have a look at the graph here. His first 11 races of the year, 5 wins. His win in Townsville on the Sunday, which was a ripping drive, was his only win from the last 11 races. So, but he's still been there or thereabouts. But that drop-off, obviously the incident with Chaz in New Zealand, Tassie wasn't a great weekend, but it's kind of feast or famine. That graph goes up a long way and there's trophies attached, or when it goes down a fair way.
Yeah, and
But he's still, I'm not counting him out. I think he's absolutely 100% in the title mix here. When you reset the points, he's absolutely in this.
Well, and you know, you think about how he sat a race out at Darwin while he's battling some health stuff. And in any other championship, you'd be thinking, well, that could be the win or lose factor. But the fact that the points get reset, he's fine. But I think this roller coaster, Noons, is something we're going to see more and more of with these Gen 3 cars because the cars are so close and you know, what works for a team. And this is probably further to my Triple Eight point. What works for the team, for them at Sydney Motorsport Park hasn't worked at other tracks. And you're going to find that there's a lot of calculated guesswork with your setups. And sometimes a team from left of field may be able to produce a better result. Look at Andre Heimgartner at Tasmania. Won a race. Hasn't looked like winning a race since. Now, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the combination of
when
your
you nail it.
Correct.
Yep.
And because everyone has the same specification car, they've got the same uprights, the geometry's within a window, the springs are there, like everyone's got the same access to the tools, sometimes it's going to work for you. And sometimes it's not. And you look at some of Brodie's results there, sometimes they've just missed it. They've just missed the setup window. And it's good because it doesn't always mean the same person's going to win every week.
Which is good for the game overall.
Correct.
It's harder to pick. Shootouts are a big consideration in Supercars racing. We're going to see a lot of them in the finals, the Enduros as well. I wanted to put a couple of guys under the microscope here and have a look at how they convert to shootout performances. Have a look at this. Poles per shootout started. Chaz Mostert gets in a lot of shootouts, but he doesn't get a lot of pole positions. In fact, one of them is that 2019 Bathurst where Scott McLaughlin in the record books is wiped and Chaz is he didn't physically start from the pole. One was a Ben top 15 shootout and the other was that cracking Bathurst lap that he did in 2021. You got to qualify well and execute in shootouts to be up the front for those finals and Enduros races. Cam Waters, he gets stuff done. Kostecki gets it done in shootouts like pretty much no one else. Matt Payne hasn't really been able to go on, but he's in the top half of the shootout field. I just thought it was something to put under the microscope because there's so many shootouts in the rest of the championship. This becomes really relevant.
Yeah, and we love shootouts, Noons. They're a great part of a race weekend, and the Bathurst shootout is one of the most famous parts of a Bathurst race weekend. So it's very interesting to see that data because, that's an incredible number of missed opportunities for pole position when arguably there would have been times when he was provisional pole. So, you need to get on top of that one-lap pace. And as we know, where you start in these races goes a long way to being where you win or lose a race.
And that topic can extend to Tickford Racing. Let's have a look at how they've been trending. We talked a lot about their start to the season, up to and including Taz. Their 2 cars averaging 11.2 in quali. Last 2 rounds stepped it up for Cam and Thomas. 5.8. That's a big jump in the case of those 2 rounds. You got to qualify well to race well.
100%. And to be fair, I guess Cam's been able to kind of make better use of those poor qualifying results and maintain his championship position, whereas Tom Randle hasn't been able to kind of convert those 15th back qualifying results into top 10 finishes, but they're certainly on an upward trend. They've found something with their cars and their performance, and it's at the right time of the year. So, for Cam Waters and Tommy Randle, they'd be looking forward to the next few races and seeing if they can continue this strong form and make sense of it, Noons, because there's one thing to be fast, but you have to understand why you're fast. And that's one of the biggest things with these cars.
Did you get the impression from our chat with Thomas that he's not going to get a new car anytime soon?
I did get that impression. And whether or not, look, I'm not a big believer on new cars making a big difference unless there's a reason. Are they lighter? Are they stronger? What are they, But I think he would like a new car was the impression I got there. But he did a great job at Townsville with the car that he had, and looks like that's the car he's going to have for the rest of the year.
So Tickford have trended one way in quality. I want to take a look at Blanchard's now, Jack, and they're trending the other way. That start to the season for Aaron Cameron, who's qualified well and had horrible races generally over the year. He's had all sorts of stuff go wrong. And James Golding, look at the slide here. First part of the year, 7.1. They've dropped to 15.7 average across the two cars. That's a reflection of, I think, too, also, they're a Triple Eight sort of connected team as well. So when Triple Eight maybe aren't going as well, sometimes you see that the customer team's not going so well either. So that's one to keep an eye on, because that's a slide that they need to arrest and get a car in the finals. They can still get James Golding in there to contend.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. And we've spoken about teams performing poorly, trying to work out how to go better. And this is almost the other way around. Blanchard's, do they know why they were fast to begin with? Was it more luck than good preparation, or have they tried something different now and the trend is that it's going worse? So that's the thing. There's two sides to those arguments. One is when poor teams are looking for performance, and then other ones when they get the performance is understanding, something my dad was always pretty big on, understanding how did that happen? Was it just good luck, or were we making calculated decisions to the setup? Was the driver driving the car better? But the interesting one there is the head-to-head qualifying, which I saw on the V8 Sleuth website. Aaron Cameron, 12 to Golding, 10. And when you look at the championship order, as we've touched on, Aaron Cameron finds new and inventive ways to not be there in the end of a race. Lap 1 crashes seem to be his forte, but he's out-qualified James Golding 12 to 10. So he's got speed against his teammate, but needs to convert that, and the team need to get them back well inside the top 10, because this time of year, especially Golding's really their only chance to get in the finals. So he really needs to deliver.
Do you believe in curses?
Depends what they are.
If it's on you or if it's on someone else, maybe. There's a curse running here. Don't get pole position, Jack. Have a look at this. No pole sitter in Darwin or Townsville won a race. I don't think that's Cam having a teary. I think that's been added just quietly to the graphic there. So that's 6 races in a row where pole hasn't won a race. You've got to go back to the last race of Gen 2 in Adelaide 22 and then the first 5 of Albert Park 23 to find a stretch of 6 where no one's won from pole position. The last time that we went 7 in a row without a car winning from pole, we had to go through the files, Townsville to Bathurst in 2016. And if we can get to 8 in a row without a car winning from pole, or 9 even, you got to go back to 2014 to find the last time that happened. That underlines your point that the Gen 3 era, it's really hard to keep nailing it even when you nail qualifying.
Yeah, and we're contradicting our shootout conversion numbers from before, Noons, about how little.
But not every qualifying's had a shootout.
Correct. But it is interesting to see that, because I think the biggest thing with qualifying on pole becomes the extra pressure of getting the car off the line. And we've seen that could still, pole's no guarantee to win the race. And that's
let alone lead the first corner.
And that's a perfect stat for that. And as we've seen before, people can win from down the back. So that's an interesting number. It's crazy to think that none of the pole sitters over those last 2 weekends have won a race. So there you go. If you qualify 2nd, 3rd or 4th at Wanneroo, you're still in with a chance of a win.
But you get the money if you get on pole, and drivers love cash. There's no problem about that. Next up, here on the Undercut, we're going to put Jack to the test right here on the Workbench. ACL Race Series are back with us here on the Undercut for the Workbench. And in recent times, James Moffat's been in good form. Jack Perkins is in the hot seat. Of course, ACL, awesome partners of Perkins over the years. They're still involved in supercars, so many other forms of racing. World-class engine bearings in Launceston, Tassie. So Tassie fans, be proud of what comes out of that Apple Isle state of yours, because for, over 70 years, they've been punching out awesome bearings for worldwide motor racing, including, you go back to the Repco Brabhams, the ACL involvement there. It's a long and storied history.
It's an Australian success story, Noons. Bathurst winning bearings, and they're supplying all around the world. Great team down there. And like I said, all the way from Tassie, world-class manufacturing. So hats off to the team down at ACL.
Now, will it be hats off for you? Quiz time. You ready?
I think so.
On the Workbench this week, I want to know who has the most race wins in the history of the Australian Touring Car Championship and Supercars in a particular season. So there's the top 6 that I've got here. Your challenge is, can you name them all? And for bonus points, when and how many race wins did they have?
Well,
Go.
So I can, but I feel like some of the older guys are going to get robbed just be pure race numbers in a season.
Correct.
So I think about champions in the early 90s, Seaton, Scaife, and then Lowndes, and I think, well, there was races, maybe only 10 races a year.
Start naming names, Jack.
So, all right, who has the most race wins in a season? It's going to have to be, it won't be one of those young blokes, one of those older blokes. So I'm going to say Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yep.
Scott McLaughlin.
Shane Van Gisbergen first. He had 21 in 2022.
Yep.
Scott McLaughlin had 18 in his championship winning 2019 season. So you're in order, 1 and 2 already.
Yep. Then,
and I'm okay if you don't have them in order.
Okay, well, I've written Scaife here because surely one of his years is close to being in the record books.
His year of years was 2002. 15 wins, he's equal 4th. So there are 3 drivers tied in equal 4th. So Scaife is absolutely one of the 6.
Lounsey.
Lowndes is 3rd on the list with 16 in that 1996 season.
Yeah, the 96 season was one that stuck out for me. What about Glenn Seaton in one of his winning years?
Nope.
No.
Not even on the overall list beyond the top 6.
Okay, well, what about Garth Tander?
He's 15. He's on the list. His championship winning season in 2007, the Toll HSV dealer team, he had 15 in that particular year. So I think from memory, he had 15 career wins before that season, and then he won 15 in a single season to double his tally. And by the way, Garth's new book is out just before Bathurst. You can pre-order it now from the V8 Sleuth Superstore. And he does open up about quite a few topics, having been involved with writing it with him. So keep an eye on that one for the upcoming months.
I'll have to get that one for Christmas, maybe, Noons.
One to come. You've only got one left here. You've got everyone but one.
I'll tell you 2 that won't be on there with respect to those guys.
Oh, no,
Rick Kelly and Russell Ingall. They probably the least amount of wins to win a championship.
Seasons, correct.
Okay, so I'm missing someone.
And it's not necessarily
Jamie
a championship winning. Of course, I was going to say 2008.
Yep.
He won 15 races as well. So
not in 2012. I would have thought 2012.
Won more races in 08. Went on an absolute blitz in the back end of 08. Ian Craig won at Bathurst. Then he won the Gold Coast, Bahrain, Simmons. Yeah, he won a whole pile. I think he won 11 of the last 13 that year from memory off the top of my head. So
what do I win?
Nothing.
Not even some bearings.
Not even
ACL?
some ACL Race Series bearings. You're going to have to go to Tassie yourself and go and do a deal with them down there. Thank you to ACL for getting on board with the Undercut again in recent times. But you've done well there. Moff set a very big benchmark in recent episodes, and you've delivered too. So well bowled. They are the 6 most winning drivers in a season in the history of Australian Touring Car Championship and Supercars Racing. I don't think the way this season's going, anyone's going to join that list or come anywhere close to being in that top 6. But another big show, mate. A big thanks to Thomas Randle, to Castrol, to Ford Trade Club, to ACL for getting on board. The V8 Sleuth Superstore is pumping. You can see a lot of the products behind us here. The V8 Sleuth magazine, issue 05 is coming very soon with the Peter Brock VN Commodore that you've been heavily involved in getting that back together. We're going to sit down and talk about that. It's going to be in that magazine that's out sometime in August. But you can buy all the back issues of the magazine from the online store. There's a cap behind you there. Is that available too?
Yep, perkinsengineering.com.au noon. So we've got our 91 retro Perkins Engineering cap, and big thanks to everyone that supports what we do on our YouTube and Facebook. And I can't wait to get that new magazine with our latest restoration, PE13, on the front cover.
It's looking sharp, that VN Commodore. That's the Peter Brock 1991 Bathurst shootout car. Before we go, last show we had a great Castrol commercial from back in the vault. To finish the show this week, we're going to go back into the vault again and take a look at how they made these ads at Sydney's defunct Amaroo Park Raceway. On behalf of the whole team, that is The Undercut. We'll catch you next time.
This film was specially prepared to enable you to see what went into the making of a Castrol commercial featuring the Datsun 1200 and 1600, and to show how Castrol support Datsun and their dealers. Filming was carried out at Amaroo Park by Amalgamated Pictures Australasia. The driver, one of the best, Bob Skelton. We used a crew of 15 and over $60,000 worth of equipment, including the remarkable Dynalens camera for vibration-free motion shots. Now let's have a look at the action shots used in the commercial and some of the methods used for making them. This is one of the special rigs developed for this commercial. You'll notice that it's attached to the car by suction caps. These caps will support a heavy camera while the car's being driven at high speeds without damaging the bodywork. The rig can be mounted anywhere on the car. In this case, we're using a center rig. This is how the action looked through the camera. And here we have the rig mounted on the bonnet. And the rear rig. We used a camera at track level to take this dramatic shot. This take was made with the camera mounted on a high-speed special-purpose vehicle. These shots, together with many others, gave us the final commercial, which will run from now until the day of the Howdy for Rodo 500 on 41 TV stations across Australia. It's estimated that during this period, it will reach an audience of over 5 million. Here's the finished commercial.